Welcome. I would like to take you on a journey of my research proposal, which is part of the Scholarship of Learning and Teaching Research course at Central Queensland University under the guidance of the course coordinator, Julie Fleming. My topic is understanding the role of spirituality in sustainable development. Why am I doing this? Is it because I'm curious to find out a bit more or a lot more? Or is it because I want to share how I think about this topic? Or I want to prove someone else wrong? I'm very passionate about this subject, sustainable development. It's a very hot topic, and I have always had a desire to understand more about what are we going to do about the condition of the world. I've written papers that were published, that were peer-reviewed, and I have my master's in sustainable development from CQ University. So it's really in line with what I've undertaken, what I've studied, and importantly, I'm very passionate about community development. I'm a practitioner and an advocate. I read a lot, I attend gatherings, I participate in regional discussions, and I also take part in local activities. I've started my own community garden, I've started a Facebook on sustainability, I help out with various activities where I want to see change at the local level. Now, I'd just like to share a bit more about my understanding of community development. Really, when you think about community, it is talking about people. And when you boil it down, it comes down to the individual. And really, when we look at ourselves as individuals, in essence, are we this physical body, or is there more to it? Is it our soul? Is it our spirituality? So my background is, my understanding is that if we want to see change and real development, it can't be something superficial. We have to look at the individual, and we have to look at the heart of the individual, which is our soul. And I'm sure you will agree there is this widening gap between what we're trying to understand on sustainable development and spirituality. Look at the world around today. There is rampant materialism. Our complete disregard for the environment, merely for our physical gains, for our physical comforts. We think we can buy happiness through material means. And then you see this big gap in our values, in this loss of vitality in men's belief in spirituality. And I don't think it's that we do not have it. We do have it. But because we haven't made an effort to understand ourselves better, and we are focusing only on the outside, on the material benefits of life. So there's this continually widening gap, which has also aroused my concern. And that is why I want to embark on this research paper on really the problems that we are facing today. Is it because we have only tried to solve it through economic, material benefits and forgetting the spiritual side that we possess? So for a bit of a background for you, what is sustainable development? Now, when you think about development, usually we look at the UN because they're the world body which really looks at various aspects of development. Now, Brundtland, one of the authors who coined this phrase, in 1987, they were the chief advisors. And now that has been accepted, where it was said that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So very simple, that we can't merely think about ourselves, my present life, my present moment, but what am I going to do to take care of myself, but in no way jeopardize the growth and development of future generations. Now, understanding sustainable development, we are told that there are three pillars: the environment, society, and the economy. The United Nations, for the past 15 odd years, has adopted the Millennium Development Goals. Now, there were these very broad, ambitious 8 goals. Those came to an end in 2015. 2016 was a pivotal time when we had the Paris Accord, when the world again came together to talk about the condition of the environment, to talk about the deteriorating condition of society. And they adopted the Sustainable Development Goals that are to last for another 15 years until 2030. So for me, it is very timely to look at this issue, because I feel that we're trying to address issues, problems, but we aren't looking at the heart of the problem. We're going for a band-aid approach. And the result is what we're seeing today, is climate change, is the rising sea levels, is the devastation that we're seeing, the heat waves, the storms, the cyclones, loss of habitat. We are continually demolishing rainforests merely for our own benefits, with complete disregard for future generations. This is leading to desertification, loss of prime land for agriculture, and the rate of extinction of species, animals, birds. We have never seen, it has been unprecedented with the amount of loss of species since the Industrial Revolution. And this can only be squarely blamed on man's insatiating thirst and greed for material benefits. Now, this comes to the heart of what I'm trying to understand. Now, if you look at the picture on the left, what you see is sustainable development, is these 3 overlapping concentric circles of the economy, society, and the environment. Lately, so say since 2005, they've been talking about this 4th pillar, and they've labeled it as culture. And my understanding of culture isn't your head, your outer form. It isn't our dress. It isn't our cultural dances. It isn't our food. But I think when you look at the heart of culture, it is the individual self, the individual and the collective self, should I say. And this is where spirituality comes into the picture, where if we look at ourselves, yes, we have a body, but it doesn't last for long. Now, this is one understanding. Should spirituality be added as a 4th pillar, or and which is what towards I'm leaning, is where spirituality, as you see in the picture on the right, it is the foundation of our development. It is the foundation on which we don't have rampant material growth because of the economy or because of the way businesses are run. Where spirituality controls our appetite and puts consumerism under control, and we do not plunder the environment. Similarly for society, where because of our spiritual values, we aren't as prejudiced. We consider and we think about others. Now, this is what I would like to understand through this research proposal. Where does spirituality lie? So I've come up with these 3 questions. Through this proposal, through this research proposal, I hope to ascertain to what extent is lack of spirituality impacting on the achievement of sustainable development goals, these broad 17 goals that the UN has adopted. And what is the influence? How can spirituality influence on sustainable development? Now, this journey for me has been wonderful, and I am told through the material, through the feedback from the course coordinator, that I can't be biased. I also need to look at what is out there. And what I found out that, of course, the extremes of it, the extremes of spirituality, or should I say, in the name of spirituality, it leads to negative effects on sustainable development. So these are my initial findings. I was actually very surprised to find that there's a fair amount of research done which really is in line with what I am thinking. Now, two authors which I really will lean heavily on. One is Uluwishewa, where he categorically indicated how the conditions of the environment, human-to-human relationships, and the continual deterioration of all facets of our lives is because of the lack of individual and collective spirituality. And I was quite happy, and I thought, wow, this is great. This looks quite easy, because I don't have to argue and fight about it. But also what I came across was another author, Witt, and she very beautifully gives a balanced approach. And she says that the extremes of so-called contemporary spirituality can lead to narcissism, where the individual self, the ego, is taken precedence, where there's complete disregard for the environment, there's complete disregard for institutions, and the individual dictates their own progress. And this is harmful. And again, I've come to the realization that this in no way is exhaustive. The limits that I have on this course, but also my own research, I'll have to do much more research to come up with something that really suggests remedial action. So what I'm hoping to do through this proposal is really to raise awareness about the topic. What are the major deliverables? I hope to inform academia about the impacts of lack of spirituality on sustainable development, and this is chiefly through journal publications. And I even have got a goal over here. I hope to publish in the 14th International Conference on Environmental, Cultural, Economic, and Social Sustainability. You can see with the timeline, I'm right now presenting a PowerPoint explaining the proposal. This will be followed, I'm sure, by valid feedback from the course coordinator, which I will input and present the final assessment. I will also seek feedback from Dr. Kirk Johnson, with whom I've co-authored in the past, include some changes over there, and then get ready to present to the international conference, which happens in January of 2018. The methodology is a participatory action research as suggested in the course material, where I'm not doing an analysis for someone else, but I'm doing it as an agent of my own learning. It is predominantly a document analysis from primary sources. Based on the research, there is no need for any ethical considerations at this point, and it may come up later. The literature review process for me has been very interesting. The curve has been very steep, the learning curve. So basically, when I started this topic, I was toying between two ideas, and Julie Fleming was very supportive, very encouraging, and I started to get a better feel of the topic, but I wasn't very clear. I was a bit all over the place, and then once I started to read a bit, I felt much better, and then I got very timely feedback, a critique of what I was looking at. I was looking at it really from a very biased approach, but when I read other literature, it really helped me solidify my. I would also like to explain my learning curve through a SWOT analysis. So the strengths are that I'm really passionate about the subject. Another strength is the good mentorship I've received, and I have an inquiring mind. But come with that, there's a fair bit of weaknesses. My approach was very parochial. It was very narrow. I was quite biased. I was accessing poor or outdated information. My topic was too broad, I was told. My deliverables were quite unclear. I was trying to deliver too much, but I wasn't really being very specific on how I'm going to deliver it. My choice of language, should I say, the language construction was quite weak. I was using long sentences, a bit complex, and I was told that to keep it very simple. And of course, I was quite headstrong. Even with the course coordinator, I just felt it as though I'm up against everyone, purely because religion and spirituality is taboo. You don't bring it up, you don't talk about it. But the course coordinator for me was it was an eye-opener, where she was very understanding and saying, well, if that's what you're trying to investigate, so be it. But how you go about investigating it, how balanced it is important. So I really felt good about it, although initially I thought that was a big weakness. And the opportunity, I've repeated it a few times, but the mentorship I've received, for me, this is a great opportunity where I'm not basically cut down because of my weak research skills, but really, as a student, I'm not feeling as I'm put in the same basket as the rest, but really based on my capacity, based on my understanding, the guidance has been very individualized. And for me, is this timely enrollment in the course, because I've done a fair bit of research and writing of papers and publishing, but this course has been a great eye-opener for me. The threats are that I'm in the same cohort of experienced tertiary education, higher education practitioners. They have a cohort of students. They're talking from empirical knowledge and experience, while I'm really talking from my understanding of aspects of issues. The time pressures, of course, is always a limiting factor, but acknowledging that helps one move forward quickly. And lastly, about this steady arc of growth that I've experienced during this course. After I delivered the first draft, I got valuable feedback from the course coordinator, which has led me to not to be too worried about the outcome, because the course coordinator told me, don't worry, look at your PowerPoint, you will get clarity from that, and then you can polish your final deliverable, which is where I'm at right now. After I receive feedback, I'm sure I'm going to input that into the final product and eventually publish it. And below are my references. If you have any questions, please post them on the comment section, and I'll do my best to give adequate responses. Thank you for your time and attention.